Hey, my name is Keith Turman, and I am the senior pastor at First United Methodist Church in Waynesville. And I just wanted to give you an update on our life together, especially as the world kind of starts to open up a little bit and the stay-at-home order kind of loosens up a bit. What does that mean for us as a church, particularly as it relates to in-person gatherings like Sunday morning and other events? Our decision to stop worshiping together back in March, to stop meeting on Sunday morning, I mean, that was very painful, but it really wasn't that hard of a decision to make. The world was in trouble, and we just really felt like we had to do our part. It really was just an important way for us to serve our community. And I think we all agreed with that. But this decision about when to reopen is proving to be much harder to make. I think from the very beginning of this thing, way back in that third week of March, as a staff team, we began anticipating what was ahead. We began dreaming about that day when we would come back together. Like maybe we can get back together by Easter. Surely we can get there by Pentecost, and hopefully Pig Picking Day, because Pig Picking Day is awesome. We just talked about what a huge celebration it would be. Like there could be baptisms and people joining, and just the waves of joy and laughter that would wash over us. We talked about just the hugs and the kisses and the friendships that are rekindled, and then to begin to think about the music, like in the sanctuary in the gym. Just imagining all of our amazing musicians on the stage, like so many of them that they're literally having to try to not fall off the stage, and just imagining that group just rocking the place. And I thought in the perfect world they would even agree to play a Tom Petty song for me, and we'd be singing, like all of us singing, even those of us who shouldn't be singing, at least very loudly, we'd be singing loudly, and it wouldn't matter, because the Spirit of God was moving us and stirring us, and we would be so happy to be back together and to be worshiping in that place. And then I think about the sanctuary upstairs, and Kathy would be pulling out all the stops, and our chancel choir would be so large that it would spill out into the congregation, and they would be joined by the handbell choirs and the children's choirs. There would be soloists, and there would be cellos and oboes and flutes and violins, and I can just see Scott Taylor's cute little grin as he pulls out the harpsichord, and as he straps on his banjo over his white monk robe. And the singing in that place, a place that was actually designed for singing. Imagine the singing that would fill that room, and it would be so awesome that Charles Wesley would roll over in his grave and start weeping with joy, because it was so good, because the Spirit of God was moving in such awesome ways. And then when worship is over, we all meet outside from all of our services, and the sky would be perfectly blue, and the breeze would be gentle, and there would be bluegrass music, and there would be barbecue sandwiches and square dancing and storytelling, and we won't quit that till the cows come home. I long for that. I want that, and I know that you do too. So we have our questions. The more I think about it, though, I feel really sad. It makes me sad that these necessary regulations and protocols, they've robbed us of special moments and celebrations, and not just the ones that we experience on Sunday mornings. We have felt robbed for lots of things. I think about our students and all the events associated with school, not just graduation, which is huge, but our sporting events and the relationships that are having to happen in different ways, and so on. All of us can think of those things that we've lost, and I really do think that it's important for us to name those things we've lost and to weep for them. I have wept over many things these days. I think we have to go through our grief to get to the other side of this, especially when we realize that what's on the other side of this is not going to be the same. I mean, it's just not. At First United Methodist Church, we are on this path to reopening, and it's a tough road and it's a slow road, but it's a road that we're starting to go down. One of the announcements that we have is that our preschool will be reopening on June the 8th. It's not reopening just because we want the preschool to open. It's actually reopening because the preschool has always been a vital ministry for our community. And our community desperately needs childcare these days. And so we're going to open because families are struggling to get back to work, and to get back to work they need someone to take care of their kids, and that's what we do best in our preschool. And so we'll play a critical role in that. But just because we're opening doesn't mean that it's all going to be the same. It's not going to be the same. It's going to be a very different experience for children and for parents. For one, it's only going to be in our new preschool building. Only teachers and children will be in the building. Parents will not be allowed to come in. The class size is going to be much smaller. There's going to be no group activities, so there'll be no chapel together. There'll be no time in the gym together. There's going to be no Play-Doh. There's going to be no all hands in the sandbox, kinds of things. It's going to be tough. But Sydney is creating a safe place so that we can accomplish our mission, and that mission is for us to serve our families in this way. And so there's going to be some adjustments that have to be made. As far as Sunday morning goes, we've been trying to imagine what that might look like too, with our need to distance from one another, 6 feet. Like, I'm not a math guy, but when you take our spaces and you start distancing people in whatever combination and configuration you can think of, the bottom line is our capacity is significantly reduced. 20 to 25% of what we normally have would be allowed to gather. How do we manage that? Is it RSVP? Is it the lottery? It's a tough one to figure. But everyone would be wearing a mask. And I think, what about the hymnals? What about bulletins? What about communion? Communion is a big conversation now, but what does communion look like when we're together? Like, do you want to receive a piece of bread from me and dip it in a common cup? No, we've got to figure that out. I think the big one for me is what the experts are saying about singing, and how choirs and singing groups, and even those of us that are in the congregation that shouldn't be singing but that want to and that are singing loud, how these droplets will fly. And it's kind of amazing what they say about that. So it's kind of hard for me to imagine worship without the music and without the singing. The conversations that we have about it, we always land on, we want worship to be meaningful. We want there to be this level of quality that makes it worth any risks we take to get back together. So what does meaningful worship look like with all of these limitations? There's conversations about parking lot worship. What does parking lot worship look like for us? Like, do we all just come to our parking lot with our lawn chairs and our to-go coffee mugs? What are we getting there? Are we allowed to sing? Do we have to wear our masks? Where are we going to park our cars? Do we have enough space in our parking lot for any kind of significant gathering? I don't know. That's the stuff we're wrestling with. Someone said it would kind of be like going to Disney World, and they let you in the front gate, but then they say you can't ride any rides. So I don't know what good that would be. Anyway, that's an ongoing conversation, almost daily, trying to figure it out. But one of the things that we know is that we can't forget that this situation that we find ourselves in is really serious. And we've all heard stories, and we know the gravity of this situation, and it's frightening. And I know that many of us are afraid. I know that a lot of us are very anxious about life as we know it these days. I know that a lot of us are angry. We're angry about a lot of things, these situations that we're in, these things that are happening to us that are out of our control, and it becomes very frustrating. This morning, in a brand new thing that we started this morning, was Coffee with Keith. It wasn't my idea, but I thought it was a great idea. And it's 10 o'clock every Thursday morning. I hope that you'll join us. There's no agenda. It's literally just having coffee with me, to the degree that you can do that through Zoom, just to talk, just to chat, to see each other's faces and to hear each other's voices, and We'll talk about things like this, the subject matter that we're on now. And this morning, Terry Bevel, one of our members and a good friend, he said, we're frustrated because we're used to there being a finite end to things. He says it's kind of like a tornado. Like when a tornado hits, there's all of this destruction and there's all of this chaos. And at the end of it, your house might be destroyed, but at least you'll know it's over. At least you'll know that you can start piecing things back together again. But with this, there's not a clear end in sight, and that makes it tough. So as we address this question of reopening and getting back to normal, we all understand that the stakes are high, and we don't take any of this lightly. Like so many things out there, we haven't set a date for when we'll go back to in-person worship. We're working on it, and we're going to give you regular updates on what we're thinking, just like this and other pieces of communication that we do. But we want to know what you're thinking. It's important for us to have a sense of what you're feeling, of what your opinion is, and so please contact us with that. In fact, we're working on a survey now, and hopefully it will get to you before too long. Please fill out this survey, but don't wait for that. Give us a call, send us an email. We are working really hard to fulfill our mission, and that's kind of like the bottom line question that we address. Are we being First United Methodist Church Waynesville? Are we living into our mission to be the living body of Christ? And so we know that we need community, all of us, and these days we're hungering for that in ways like we've never experienced before. I've talked to some of you, even in our chat this morning. We're lonely. We need physical touch. We need to be around each other. So we're wrestling with these things. We're trying to continue to create community in all the ways that we can, and we want to respond to these ever-changing needs around us. These are unprecedented times, and so we have to be flexible, and we have to be able to adapt to these new situations that are coming our way. And so we just really want you to know that our staff team is working really hard to figure out all the ways that we can get together in smaller groups. Our Sunday school classes, our journey groups, our committees, our youth ministry. Matthew's trying to figure out ways to safely be together in a field somewhere. Rachel with our children's ministry. A regular conversation is what does Vacation Bible School look like, and so on. So again, it's all going to look and feel very different, of course, but we're going to figure out ways to pull it off, and we'll update you on our progress with that stuff too. I also want you to know that we are not operating in a vacuum. We're learning from other leaders around the country. Our entire staff is watching webinars, having conversations with other church leaders in other communities, getting their opinions on some of their ideas in their ministry areas. We value the guidance and the opinions of our Bishop Leland, and our District Superintendent, Linda Kelly. We value the opinions of our community leaders. We know that there's a growing need for us to be the church, like we've always have been. People are lonely, people are losing their jobs. One statistic that was kind of mind-boggling to me, was shared with me yesterday, was that of nationwide, of people who make under $40,000, 40% of that demographic, they've lost their jobs. Well, that's devastating. So how do we live as the church to those who are literally trying to survive, trying to pay rent and to put food on their tables? So we know that our community is hurting. We know that many of you are hurting, and First United Methodist Church Waynesville will continue to respond. We know that we want you to know that we're working very hard, and that we're giving this our best shot. We know that we won't get everything right, but it won't be from a lack of trying. I also know that we're not all going to agree on this path forward. So again, your opinion matters, and we need to have that conversation with you. So please respond to this survey when it comes, because tomorrow is another day. It's another day that we have to live. And as the living body of Christ, We've got to figure out a way to live into that day. And, you know, we've said this, and I believe it. We're better together. We really are. So thank you for being you. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you soon.